Time once again for Norm's News Nuggets. Seamus, Norm, boys, pull your chairs in. It's late, and Cheeto Benito is in a room this morning deciding whether the war is over or not. Well, story one, Pentagon beat, and Dan Kane asked the Senate and House Appropriations Committee to approve a $1.5 trillion military budget. Now, the American taxpayer has already plopped down, as of May 12th, $29 billion. And that apparently doesn't include any damage to bases or anything else. Now, the Trump regime has also asked Congress for a $200 billion supplemental on top of their regular appropriation that they've already got. And so, meanwhile, there's still no health care for U.S. citizens. So now the pattern here that's repeating is that tech stocks are down this month on the prospect of peace, but the request for money from Congress, that hasn't gone down. So the pattern here would say the regime is getting ready for a forever war. And add to that the fact that Cheeto Benito's minions told Lockheed to quadruple their production in January before we started dropping bombs. Those patterns show that a peaceful resolution, that was never the plan. And now, Pumpkin McPornhumper has asked Congress to suspend the federal gas tax, which is just hiding the fact that the taxpayers are being looted to pay for this illegal war. Boys, Norm, you take this one first.
$1.5 trillion for a defense top line? Are you fucking kidding me? They quadrupled THAAD production in January, weeks before the war even started, proving these suit-wearing sociopaths had the invoice ready before the first shot was fired. Now they're using a gas tax suspension to hide the $29 billion bill from you brainless fucking morons, while Lockheed hits a 52-week high. Shut up, Seamus. I know you're about to quote a dead general.
Now, Seamus?
Norm, lad, settle down before you pop a vein. Though asking for $1.5 trillion while saving the public 18 cents at the pump is a heist so cheeky it'd make a highwayman blush. That January THAAD contract is the real punchline. They had the production lines humming before the first shot was fired, and now Lockheed's up 40%, while the press treats a 50% budget spike as a technical footnote. It's the influence and power Ike warned us about. Only now we're burning $29 billion and $500 million a week in gas revenue, just to keep the citizens from noticing they're the ones being fleeced.
All right, story two. So from the budget room to the peace process, or what's left of it anyway. So the Ukraine peace talks. Putin proposed them, then doesn't show up, sends his lackey instead. So they talk for 2 hours. There's no ceasefire, but at least there's 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner swap. So the largest so far in this war, and a list of Ukraine children Kiev says Russia forcibly deported. Now, shortly after that, little Marco Rubio meets with Cardinal Matteo Zuppi to see if the Vatican can be used as a venue for round two of the Ukraine peace negotiations. Then after that, everything kind of went to crap. So Russia says meeting at the Vatican is unrealistic and a bit vulgar, and then the Vatican doesn't want to appear to be taking sides, and Adolf Hitler is worried about his ballroom and his cage fight on the White House lawn, but doesn't seem to be worrying about the American people too much and what's going on with us. So, Seamus, 600 years of European wars is your terrain. Lavrov just called the Vatican vulgar, and Peskov says there's nothing on the calendar coming up. So you first. You take this one first.
Here we go. Lavrov calling the Vatican vulgar is a proper laugh coming from a chancellor whose idea of diplomacy is a smash and grab. The Vatican's been brokering peace since before Moscow had a zip code, but the Kremlin is terrified of a room they can't bully, especially with a new American Pope shifting the gravity. They'll trade prisoners in Istanbul because it's a marketplace, but they'll dodge the Vatican because it's a courtroom, and they know exactly how guilty they look.
Norm?
Vulgar? Lavrov is a sentient skid mark who wouldn't know dignity if it bit him on his Botoxed ass. While Ukraine is doing this soul-crushing work of handing over lists of their stolen children, that blowhard McGazbag is busy treating a peace track like a bad Yelp review. One side is showing up to save their future, and the other is just a bunch of weapons-grade dipshits performing for a domestic audience of brain-dead cockwombles.
On May 17th, a drone struck the United Arab Emirates nuclear plant. It was their only one. 3 drones came in across our western border. 2 were intercepted, and the one that got through set an electrical generator on fire on the perimeter. The fire was contained. No radiation was released, or reported anyway. And the UAE Defense Ministry, though, came out and said the drones came from Iraq. Now, meanwhile, over in Amman, Jordan, Yemen and the Houthis announced the largest prisoner swap of an 11-year war. Over 1,600 prisoners will be swapped. And many thanks go to Hans Grundberg, who has been at this for 14 weeks, doing the slow process of peace. Then, well, Beijing was hosting Trump and his buddies, and while Istanbul was hosting Russia and Ukraine, and the UAE was watching its only nuclear plant burn, Hans, with the UN, moved 1,600 families home, and not a single headline. So Hans was just checking around, and it turns out you're the man. So, boys, tell me what an honest account looks like here. Norm, you go first.
Of course, the fucking panic pornographers are leading with a scorched generator and spray tan Caligula's latest ticking clock tantrum because peace doesn't move the needle for the outrage industrial complex. Hans Grundberg spends 14 weeks moving 1,600 actual human beings home through the ICRC, and it gets buried under the digital slurry of a drone strike that didn't even leak radiation. It's a feature, not a bug, you absolute weapons-grade dipshits. The escalation gets the cameras, while the only work that actually functions is treated like a fucking clerical error.
Jameis, bring it home for us.
Ah, here we go. Norm, lad, breathe or you'll turn into a heart attack purple potato. You're right, but the Baraka strike is just a flashy bit of shite for the lads who love a blood ticking clock punchline. While the cameras were chasing a bit of smoke in the UAE, Grundberg and the ICRC were in Muscat doing the patient heavy lifting that actually moves the earth and mends the families. It's a funny old world where the theatre of war gets the front page, but the only structures that actually feckin' work are the ones we're trained to ignore.
Well, there you have it. 3 stories, a budget request that scales up the war machine, even while defense stocks fall on ceasefire hopes, which appear to be part of an industrial-strength pump-and-dump scheme, a peace tour that ended with a Kremlin spokesman's words vulgar, and drones from a potentially Iran-backed Iraq land on the UAE at a nuclear power plant. Now, all this BS was so cinematic, it pulled the country's attention away from a 1,600-person prisoner exchange that actually worked. That's the business model for war in 2026. The bluster, the explosions, the tweets, they all get the cameras. The patient work, which is how you build peace, crickets. Supplemental gets the deadline. Gas tank gets the pause. Hans Grundberg, one of the people that's actually getting things done to make people's lives better, he gets the next round of funding cuts in some appropriations bill nobody is going to read anyway. So we're not the ones who close any of these rooms out for peace. We're the ones who pay the bill in treasure in the lives of our loved ones. Now, pay attention to the things that matter. I'm Analog Scott, and this has been another edition of Gnorm's News Nuggets. Find us at loopta.com, looptah.com, analogscott.substack.com. Talk to Machines on Instagram and YouTube. Subscribe and or leave us a comment and give us a like. Have an amazing day. Much love and peace to you all.